I mean, in
Well,
order for
no,
me to, in order for me to answer your question, it would probably take 2 weeks.
yeah, I mean, I was really going at whether his art and his pursuit of his career in the arts led you to have your own career in the arts, how much of a factor that was.
Yeah, that's a little different than what you asked to start with.
But
Uh,
perhaps.
uh,
That's
okay,
what I was trying to say in an inarticulate way, I'm sure.
no, but what you asked to start with, I didn't sense that's what you meant.
No.
So I think for a long time, I didn't want to do the same thing that he did. Okay. So like when I was a teenager or younger or around that time, or even going to college, I didn't want to do the same thing that he did. Okay. But then it seemed to me that everything sort of pointed towards doing this. So yes, it was an influence, but I tried to find my own journey, my own voyage. So I didn't want to be an acolyte, a follower. I wanted to find my own train, to ride on that train, follow that train.
Yeah.
Now I understand what you meant.
Okay.
Is there another thing you want to?
Yeah, you've answered my question.
Oh, okay, okay. It's really amazing to see all of you, and especially Lucy. And I met Lucy and her husband on a ship going to Germany in 1970. And her husband, Ben, and and we all became very friendly, very good friends, and we've known each other for a long time. And we had a dog then, and we took the dog to Germany. And the dogs on a ship like that, they have a special area for the dogs on the top of the ship. And the dogs hang out on the top of the ship, all the dogs together. And we met some other people there who had dogs and were going to Germany. So it was very, very memorable, very memorable trip. Besides the dogs, I mean, it was very memorable on lots of counts. So I'd like to start and introduce myself or introduce everyone. First thing is you should keep track of the emails that I send. So if I ask you to write back and say that you got this, it might be like I'm sending you a link for something, or for instance, I'm going to send you something in the next day or two, which is a Dropbox for the next class and the class after. So you have to write back and say, I got it. Okay. If you don't write back, it makes me feel terrible. Okay. And it makes me feel that, you're not getting the messages and you won't know what to do. So you just write back and say, got it, just something quick. You have to understand that the email is the only way I can communicate. I can't call you up. Okay, so I have the email. So some of you have emails and look at it every half hour or every hour. And some of you have emails and look at it every 3 days, okay? Every 6 days. So just do me a favor for the purpose of this class, look at it once a day and just, you know, I got it. I got it. If you can't come, send me an email, or you could call me, 347-512-1256, or you can just send me a text. It's just so simple. It takes you about 7 seconds to do that. And it's really nice because the one person who's not here, I don't know where he is. So, you know, in any case, it's very nice.
Simon, could you repeat that number again?
347-512-1256. And also, it's a good idea if you have a little notebook and write things down. So, for instance, let's say we talk about an artist, or someone mentions an artist, and you find that interesting. You should write it down and take a look. Okay, so let's say we talk about some term like that you had not heard of, and you want to know more about it. Just write it down and take a look. I find that if I write things down, I remember them, because my memory is good, but if I write it down, I have it on a piece of paper. It's even better. And if you look it up during the week, then the class is continuing over the week. It's not stopping just this one time. This class is not competitive. There's no grades. And so when everyone speaks and presents their opinion, we have to be respectful and understanding and ask questions or think about what they're saying. And so that's nice. And there's no grade. So you should be curious and explore things that come from the class that you remember. So on October 5th, which is the next class, I'm going to speak about something that I have been putting together for a particular purpose, but I can't tell you the purpose, but it's for a particular something that I have in mind. And the theme of this is the artist and the studio, the artist and the studio, and it is connected to 20th century artists, 21st and 20th century, the theme of the artist and the studio. So I'm going to send you a file which you will have access to through a link. So it's a Dropbox file, and there are a number of ways that you can look at this. You can look at it very small images, or very large images. I think the way it's set up, when I looked at it last, is it's very large images, 3 across. So there are a lot of pictures. I think there are 132 images. Okay, so next class, I'm going to speak about 132 images.
Excuse me, Simon, you realize probably doesn't matter a whole lot. It's Yom Kippur. I mean, I won't be available.
Oh, you won't?
No,
But
but
anyone
everyone
else?
else may be.
Anyone else? You won't? I'm okay with skipping next week, but there is one issue that'll come up. The way the classes are now, it ends the week before Thanksgiving. Okay, so Thanksgiving would be the Wednesday. If we skip next week,
Hmm.
Thanksgiving would be the last class.
Wouldn't work.
We could make the last class in December. I don't care. I mean, I'm fine with skipping next week.
Well, I may be the only person who
Well,
won't be available.
Ellen here is
Yeah.
also. Is anyone else have an issue with next week? I thought the holiday ends at sunset. No? Ellen?
Yeah,
That doesn't mean that people aren't still with their families.
right.
Right, but doesn't it end at sunset?
Oh, Ellen, could you turn your microphone on?
Ellen,
There you go.
hello?
I'm okay. If it ends, I didn't look at the calendar. If it's not the evening before Yom Kippur
It's Tuesday. Tuesday is the evening.
and of Yom, so I'm fine doing it.
You're
Okay.
fine.
I'll live-
Renee, are you okay? Renee, are you okay?
I will not be available on the 6th. I mean, no, it's the 5th.
On the
Right.
5th.
Yeah. I will be at my sister-in-law's house, so I won't be available for the class.
Would you mind taking a look at the recording then?
At the what?
We'll have a recording. You could
Oh,
look
of
at
course.
the
Yes, I will do
recording.
that. Sure.
I think it would make it easier if the class ends altogether before
Yes.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, I agree.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to mess you up. Maybe you
that's
could
okay.
watch it. You could watch it there at your sister-in-law's house.
Perhaps. See,
Okay.
it's earlier here. I'm in California.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, maybe
So
you
it's
could,
right at that time.
yeah, you could watch it without eating.
I mean, break the fast later on. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Okay,
she
so
just misses it
so-
and watches it later during the week.
All right, so you're gonna see 3 images of one artist. So it's about 43 artists, 3 images of each one. Okay, I'll send you that link tomorrow or Friday. And of the various possibilities for looking at this Dropbox, the one that I like shows each image large. You can even make it larger by clicking it, and you can also make it full screen. But I like the one that shows each image large. And so this is a very unusual list of people. And I would say that not too many people, artists, could have put this together as a list. So it represents a particular point of view, which I hope that you'll find interesting, okay? So it's an idea for something. So on October 12th, you're going to bring in, or you actually not bring in, you're going to send 2 of these images to me. And then you're going to prepare to speak about them for about 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that. And I will write to you and explain this, but you're going to contrast 2 of these images that I sent, either 2 of one artist or 2 of 2 different artists. And then you're going to have your point of view about those 2. Okay. October 19th, again, I want you to write about 2 images of the photographer Diane Arbus.
Oh.
Okay, so I want you to know that there is a fantastic exhibit on now, which I saw on Saturday, and it's on, you can see some of these images online, but this is a very, very interesting exhibit. It's at a gallery called Zwirner, Zwirner. So you can see it, you can see them at the gallery, or you can see them online. I highly, highly recommend seeing them at this gallery. This exhibit has a very interesting backstory to it. And the backstory is interesting in and of itself, but it's also interesting personally for me. So this is for itself is interesting. The backstory here is that the gallery director or friends of his put this together, and this is an exhibit which exactly duplicates an exhibit that took place 50 years before. This is very unusual. I don't think I've ever been to an exhibit which duplicated an exhibit exactly so many years ago. So 50 years ago, the Museum of Modern Art had an exhibit of the work of Diane Arbus. So Diane Arbus, that exhibit took place in 1972 at the Museum of Modern Art. It had more than 100 photographs, maybe 110 or 120 photographs. Diane Arbus in 1971 committed suicide. Her work wasn't as well known as it is now, but it was certainly known by a selected group of people, but not much beyond that. A friend of hers approached the director of photography at the Museum of Modern Art about putting this exhibit on. So that's what they did in 1972. On a personal note, in 1972, I took my daughter to see that exhibit. Okay, but she was very small. She was like about this big, and I took her in a sling, and held her. Okay, so she was maybe 2 months old or 3 months old, and so just recently I found out that they were doing this, and I said, Simona, we have to go and see this. This was the first exhibit you ever saw, and this set your life, the trajectory of your life in motion. Okay. So I said, do you remember going to this exhibit? No, she doesn't remember. I thought she had a very good memory. But I guess I was mistaken. So she might have been 2 months old or 3 months old. And so this past Saturday, Renee, my wife, Simona, and her husband, Jeremy, and their son, Adrian, all of us together went to see this exhibit. Okay, so I kept on thinking to myself, I hope that they like it. Okay. Anyway, everyone loved the exhibit. It's incredibly impressive. And the thing that I would say is that you should go and see it soon if you live in New York or close to New York, you should go to see it soon so that you could see it a second time. Okay, because I'd like to see this a second time. So this exhibit goes until October 22nd.
Yeah.
So you can write about this without seeing the exhibit. I think it's better to see them all together. That's my personal opinion. It's better to see them all together. It is an amazing exhibit on many, many levels, and I absolutely highly recommend it.
Simon, which Zwerner gallery is it in? Because they have
Which,
more.
yeah,
It's
which
it's
corner?
the one that's, oh, it's a good point. Who said that? Who asked me that? Oh, yes, he owns quite a few galleries in this location, in this area. It's the gallery that's at 537 West 20th Street.
Oh, 20.
And it says here that their hours are Tuesday to Saturday, 10 to 6. I am very familiar with her work. And I was there on Saturday between 3 and 6. And it really got to me. I think it's a major exhibit. So now what I'd like to do now is I would like you, each one of you, to introduce yourself, say something about what you do or what you did do, and your interest or connection with art. It could be you love to look at art, you like to paint, you're an architect, you're interested in photography, so that everyone has a sense of who you are. And then to say one or two things, one or two works of art that you saw in the last 4 or 5 months that really got to you. So that could be a book, it could be a movie, it could be a play, it could be a painting, it could be an exhibit, it could be a dance performance, it could be any one of those things. And if there's nothing, just say, I pass, it didn't hit me. I love to be taken away by art of all different types. And it's fantastic to me when I see something that I didn't know. All of a sudden, wow, how did I not know this? This is amazing. Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I know this before? So it would be like if you. Hello? Oh, it would be like if you were a student of architecture and you loved architecture, and all of a sudden you saw an architect's building that you never saw before, and it stopped you in its tracks. And you said to yourself, God, how did I not know that before? I mean, and that kind of thing. So I don't usually have more than one. I have to squeeze to get to one. You're going to do one or two, not more. But I am going to pull rank, and I'm going to do 5, which is 4 more than I ever do.
That's not
4
fair.
more.
Oh,
All right. Okay.
4 or
So
5.
first one is an exhibit that I saw at the Morgan Library of Rick Barton. And I wrote to you about this exhibit. You should try to find his work online. Really stunning exhibit on many different levels.
who was the
his
artist?
His name is Rick, R-I-C-K, Barton, B-A-R-T-O-N.
It was
Uh,
German, right?
This is an exhibit of drawings.
Yeah, German.
Hello?
No,
Uh, you don't have to mute, but if you could just sort of dial in to what we're talking about. So it's an exhibit of drawings, all in line, fantastic drawings, and drawings that were scrolls, so that each drawing opened up, unfolded to a scroll about 20 feet, 25 feet wide. So you should look his work up. The second exhibit that I saw, which I thought was, that exhibit ended. The second exhibit ended, which was of Matisse, the Red Studio.
Mm.
And in that exhibit, which was at the Museum of Modern Art, the paintings that were in Matisse's painting were all brought to the museum and shown in one room with Matisse's painting, the Red Studio. So you had his painting and many other paintings together. The third exhibit is the exhibit that I mentioned already, which was of Diane Arbus, and that I've already spoken about that. That's at the Zwirner Gallery. Two films that seem really stunning are a film on Leonard Cohen,
Oh, yeah,
called Hallelujah.
yeah.
And that film is a film on one song only. And it was a song that I knew, but I didn't know a lot about this at all. And the film looks at that song from many different angles. And it's a very inspiring film, extremely inspiring. And the second film I just saw, which is a film called Playground.
A what?
Playground. It's called Playground, and it's a film about little children in a playground, and it's a Belgian film from Belgium. I forgot the name of the director. The director is a woman. I forgot her name, and amazingly, it's a first film written and directed by this woman. Oh, so I forgot to say, I should have said, so my name is Simon, and I work on my painting and drawing, and pretty much that's all I do, except for different odds and ends. And I'm working on a very large painting now, which is exciting and a great thing to do during a pandemic. So would someone offer to go first
I have a
of all of
question.
you? What?
I have a
What?
couple of questions.
Yes,
Where are these films?
the films are online. Online.
Oh,
If you have film on demand or something like Prime Video, I'm pretty sure you can find both of them. Okay, or sometimes they're listed under YouTube. YouTube, or just put the film in and
Okay.
see, put the name of the film in and put down streaming, and it might tell you how to find them. And Lucy, sometimes they'll say it's on this service. Lucy, sometimes they'll say it's on this service and you can join for a week for free. So you can do that. You can join for a week for free. But the only problem with that is that
Unjoined.
I did that, and a year and a half ago I joined, and I've been paying for this for a year and a half. Okay, so you have to remember to not join. You join and then you cancel. I have a subscription to the Boston Globe for a year and a half.
Right.
Okay, so would someone like to follow me
I'll
and
start.
go first?
I'll go.
Okay, Carol.
Okay, since I'm new. My name,
Thank you.
Carol.
my name's Carol Gerstle, and I live in Brooklyn, and I'm a retired lawyer. I spent most of my career as a labor lawyer, representing, work for the United Federation of Teachers.
Mm.
And retired, I guess about 5 years ago now, and love to travel. The pandemonium has put a little bit of a limit on that, but I love to look at art. I'm not an artist, but I am a committed looker, and like to spend a lot of time in museums and galleries when I can. And the two things that I was going to mention, well, Simon, you already got me because I was going to mention the Red Studio, the Matisse exhibit, which I thought was just marvelous and very exciting, and kind of put life to the Matisse painting. And the other thing is I'm a big jazz fan. And so the other wonderful thing that I mentioned is that back about 2 months ago, there's a jazz pianist, Brad Meldau, and he did a solo performance at the Village Vanguard, which was just marvelous. And that's my second.
Wonderful. So this kind of thing, if you have your notebook out, here's Brad Meldau. You could look him up. I mean, you could
And
look.
YouTube, he's
If I
wonderful.
hadn't spoken about Matisse, you could have looked that up.
Right.
So that's the idea of being curious and looking things up. And
Who
sometimes
is the jazz artist? I'm sorry, I didn't get the
Yeah,
name.
he's a jazz pianist. He's
And what's
marvelous.
his name?
Brad Meldau, MEHLDAU.
Thank you.
I know that my daughter went to that concert.
Ah,
Yeah, and she knows him, and I think did a performance with him,
oh, really?
and really likes him. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I know his playing.
Oh, great.
So would someone like to go second, or should I just call people? Oh, John.
I'll go second because I'm also new. Thank you, Carol, for
Thank
suggesting
you.
that.
Thank you.
My name's John DiNatale. I also live in Brooklyn on 14th Street for anybody who's around here. And my good friend David Jones recommended this class, and I thought it sounded like a lot of fun, and it does seem like that. Most of my career, I was a journalist. I worked for PBS for many years at the NewsHour on PBS. And then after the NewsHour, I was at Channel 13. And that was, I had the opportunity to work on an art show. I was co-executive producer of New York City Arts on Channel 13, which would make you think I know a lot about art, but I don't. It was just goes to show you what you all know about TV people already. They don't know anything. No, but it was a nice opportunity. I worked with some people who really were knowledgeable about art, and I loved doing that. And I did some documentary work as well when I was at Channel 13. And now I'm in the communications field. I work at a law school as a writer and director of communications. But when you were talking, Simon, I was thinking about a play that I saw, and I'm only going to say one piece of art that I wanted to talk about. I went to see, before the pandemic began, a play called Girl from the North Country, which was the works of Bob Dylan kind of recreated into a fabric of a story of a group of kind of a misbegotten group of people living in the 1930s in the Midwest, And what I loved about it, and this is what reminded me about it, is what you were saying, is it reintroduced me to something that I know very well. I'm a big fan of Dylan's, and I love his music, and think that we're blessed to be living on the planet while someone that creative is around. But to actually see those pieces performed and interpreted differently by characters and interwoven into a story, I thought was transcendent. It was very, very beautiful.
Terrific, terrific. Well, you speak very well, and it's in terms of meandering, nothing, no meandering.
Oh,
Would someone like to
Thanks.
go next? Oh, Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I live in Leverett, Mass, near Amherst, Massachusetts.
What's the town? What's the town?
Well, I live in Leverett, but you could say I live in Amherst. I live right by University of Massachusetts. So, and I'm a painter. That's what I do for a long time. And I paint non-representationally, and I'm in my studio. That's where I'm talking from. So there are two films. One I saw probably in the last 6 months, but I saw it twice and I loved it, and I was reminded of it. I went to visit my dad in Florida a few days ago. He had sort of a health thing. I was driving him, and it reminded me of this film, which was just so indelible and great, called Drive My Car.
Oh,
A
yeah,
Japanese film. It's just wonderful. I can't recommend it enough. And I was lucky enough. I was in LA, and my son had gotten tickets to hear the filmmaker because it was before the Academy Awards. So he was in LA, to hopefully get an award. So I heard him speak about it, and it was really good, just wonderful. And another film I just saw the other night, and you can stream it on YouTube, believe it or not, and it's called 3 Minutes, A Lengthening. And it's really interesting. It's basically this guy had found this footage, 3 minute and 33-second footage that his grandfather or his father had shot. It was his father, and the grandson is the one who's done this. But he had gone in 1938 to Poland, where he was from, on a tour of the continent, because he had made it. And so he had a movie camera, which was unknown then, and so he was shooting this film in the town that he was probably from. And so this guy found it in his grandparents' house in Palm Beach Gardens, which is where my dad lives. So it was so interesting. And basically this film, which everyone who was in it, was killed during the Holocaust. You have all these children, they're all waving to the camera, and you see this loop over and over again. It's like a forensic anthropological thing of, what does this sign say? Because it's grainy. Who are these people? What is this woman coming out of this door? What is this door with the lion on it, which was a synagogue? I mean, it's like a kind of examination of something that no longer exists. And it's not like your typical Holocaust film, which is just this kind of narrative, a chronological narrative. It keeps going round and around and deeper and deeper. It's only an hour and 10 minutes, something like that.
What is the name of it?
So
What
it's
is
called
the-
3 Minutes, A Lengthening.
It sounds very good. And the last time I saw you, you recommended 3 films
Yeah,
One of them was Drive My Car.
I know. I guess it stays
I-
with,
I saw that film and it's fantastic,
yeah.
fantastic. So
Well,
thank you,
yeah.
thank you. So would someone like to go next or should I just call people?
Yeah, I'll go
Oh,
next.
Rita, yeah.
Yes. So some of you know me. My name is Rita Knox, and I used to be Simon's next door neighbor. I say that with a laugh because I was his next door neighbor until the end of May, at which point I moved after 45 years, packed up, and now I'm in the Hamptons. And
Oh, my God.
I've spent my time doing only physical things this summer: gardening, swimming, walking on the beach, and being a vegetable. And for the first time in decades, and I've loved every minute of it. And, you know, as far as my background goes, I studied English in college. I was a high school English teacher for 15 years. Then I embarked on a real estate career, which was very successful. I owned a brokerage business in Park Slope for about 30 years.
Noah Knox.
Yes.
Yes.
And I still enjoy, and somewhere along the way, I studied photography. I was a photographer in my 20s. I did a lot of darkroom work. I'm still interested in photography, although in many years, it's been many years since I've taken up a camera, but I still enjoy photography very much. As far as something I've seen recently, there was the latest Ken Burns documentary on PBS. I don't know who else saw it. It was a 3-part documentary on America and the Holocaust. I think it's hard to present something fresh about the Holocaust, but I think Ken Burns did it. There's a rhythm to the way he presents his documentaries that are instantly recognizable. There's a slowness that sucks you right in. The narrator's voice, he has a consistent narrator. Usually it's Peter Coyote, and I love his voice. The music was bizarrely soothing as the narration progressed. And the snapshots, the photographs were mesmerizing. And of course, there was a point of view. It was about America's place in the Holocaust. So I won't say anything more than that, but I think that it's very worth seeing. 3 parts.
Great, thank
The
you.
only other thing I'll add is that
No, go ahead.
I was very excited to see an article in the Times on abortion art. Did anyone else see that article?
Yeah.
I know I sent it to you, Simon, but you had
Yeah.
already seen it.
Yeah, I wrote back to you.
Yes, I saw. And Paula Rigo was
Yeah.
mentioned as one of the artists.
Huh.
And I was so thrilled to be able to recognize her name and to know the paintings that were being discussed because Simon presented her to us.
Oh,
Over the semester. So for me, it was a wonderful way of joining politics and art together and having your class help me in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, thanks. It's a very interesting article. Anyone want to pitch in?
Yeah, I just,
Oh, Renee?
just following on, actually, the last 2 people. I thought I did not want to see the USA and the Holocaust. I'd had enough of seeing those horrors, but something made me look at it. And it was actually because I was reading a book, which a friend of mine wrote, was published, I believe, in 2017. And it was a memoir written by a man who, when he was 10 years old, and it was a family living in Germany, who were Jews, very educated, very rich, and they got out in the late 30s and went to Belgium. And the memoir is a combination of what the father wrote about his experience in unbelievably terrible conditions, getting out of Belgium and trying to figure out how to get his family out. And then the son, who was 10 years old at that point, and who today is looking back on that and putting it all together. So even though what I was looking at, the USA and the Holocaust, was old and it was historical, this too was historical, but it became so alive since this was somebody I knew who had actually gone through the experiences, which were so horrific. And the miracle of them having gotten out and made it to America.
What's the
Just
name
an
of-
extraordinary book, and it's called When Europe Was a Prison Camp.
Wow.
And the artist is, the writer rather, is Peter Schrag, who is a journalist. He's 90 now, but he was a journalist.
Do you want to continue a bit, Renee? Was there something else that you wanted to recommend or speak about that you?
No,
seen?
I feel like I live here deep in the country, no museums, nothing, my world is books. It's books, and this
It
is
could
the
be a
latest
book,
one.
it could be another book, whatever you feel.
Well, I'll tell you what I had been wanting to read this writer for a long time, W.G. Sebald.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And who writes, he was born in the 40s, I think maybe 42 or maybe 44, not a Jew, but who is consumed by the Holocaust. And every one of his books, which I have read, is phenomenal. And the one that I think I was most impressed by was Austerlitz.
Mm.
And the other one is The Immigrants,
Mhm.
but all of his books. And he's unique in that he uses photographs and drawings
Hmm.
to highlight the story.
Huh.
And it's very moving to be enveloped in that while you're reading the book. So I heartily recommend him.
Would you say like a few sentences, 2-3 sentences about something about your background, like?
Oh, my background.
Yeah, something. So,
Yeah,
so that
well,
people
first of
know,
all,
people know who you are a bit.
okay, well, it seems so long ago because I'm 86 now.
Wow.
And it feels like the beginning is vague, well, it's not really vague, but I was an urban planner and policy analyst. And then I ran into, I was working at this point in the New School for Social Research. I had a job there. And that's when I ran into Simon. And that started me on a whole new career of drawing and painting. And I can't say it was a career because it never became something I did for work. It was something I did for pleasure. And I still do for pleasure. And that's the background.
No, that's great. That's great. That's great. Anyone? Should I?
I'll go.
Yes, Kathy.
Yeah, my name's Kathy. I'm from Staten Island. Well, not from Staten Island. I live in Staten Island for maybe 40 years now. And my background is art. I went to an art college in Ohio, where I'm from. And so I started out as an illustrator. And for the last 15, 20 years, I've been working for Portraits Incorporated, doing portraits. So right now I'm primarily doing portraits of children and pastels, oils. And then I know Carol mentioned the UFT. So I've been teaching for the UFT on Zoom and in person, been teaching watercolors to the retirees. So that's enjoying that too. And let's see, one of my favorite paintings at the Met, I have many, but one that I'm drawn to is called Isle of the Dead. And it's by a Swiss painter, Arnold, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, Bocklin, Bocklin. And
Yeah.
I was so drawn from the moment I saw that painting. So whenever I visit the Met, I've got to find that painting. And then I love Reppin also.
Hmm.
And Ang, a lot of different artists. But anyway, that's my story.
Thank you very much, very much. Len?
Yeah, you bet, Simon. I'm Len Ross. My professional career has really been around numbers and number crunching and business and such. But art has always been a backdrop since the time I used to watch my mom painting when I was a little boy. I'm not trained, but I've done periods in my life when I've done a lot of work in pastels and charcoal mostly. Non-representational, as I think Ellen said, non-representational work where really the emotion and the ideas just come out in colors and shapes. A recent kind of merging of my sort of business orientation with art is I've undertaken to create something you may have heard of, called an NFT collection, which is an online collection of collectible images. And if any of you are interested in learning more about that, I'm happy to tell you offline, because I could talk about it for hours. But it's out there, and I just sort of launched it. In
What
terms
does
of
NFTs, I'm sorry, what does
What does that mean?
NFT?
yeah,
stand for?
so it stands for non-fungible token, which
Oh,
really,
yes.
which means it's a unique piece of digital. It's a unique digital asset that is one of a kind. You can think about it as if you were publishing a set of baseball cards, and you published, say, 10,000 baseball cards, and you put them out there, and they were identifiable as being unique, and people could acquire them and collect them. It's sort of the same thing, only it's digital pictures sitting up on the internet. If any of you want to look at the website, it's cat themed, and it's called Cat Club Royale.
You
Dot-
might, could you
dot-
spell it?
dot-
Could you spell it?
It's the three, it's just like it sounds, CatClubRoyale, catclubroyale.com. That's my NFT collection. So I'm actually very proud of it. It's been 8 months in the works, and I actually retained an artist to create the art from my ideas.
Okay, but it's called Cat Club Royale.
Cat Club Royale, like
.com.
a battle royale.com.
Okay.
You can check that out.
Keep going.
Yeah. So in terms of moving experiences, right? Not necessarily pieces of art, but I'll share a couple moving experiences. 2 weeks ago, my girlfriend and I visited Val Kill, which is the summer home of Eleanor Roosevelt after
Yes.
Franklin
Right.
passed. And you
Wow.
can tour through Val Kill and learn about Eleanor Roosevelt and her life at Val Kill and the things that were important to her. And there's a screening room with a little movie where you can go and kind of get a feel for this period of her life. And I stumbled across what probably I had never encountered, but probably some of you have, and that Eleanor was the driving force
Oh,
behind the UN's creation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I had never encountered this document. I guess it was 1948 when she put this together. I'm not sure exactly. It was sometime in the 40s. And I sat there kind of flipping through this document that I had never encountered before. And I thought to myself, how miraculous and marvelous this document is. And how did I not teach that? How was I not taught this as a child? These fundamental concepts of equality and justice and access. And it just blew me away. And I thought to myself, this Eleanor Roosevelt had to have been you know, one of the dozen greatest human beings
Yeah,
to ever walk
she was.
on
Mhm.
planet Earth. And it just opened my eyes as to this wonderful, wonderful person.
I
And
think she
it's
was
not-
FDR's conscience.
Yeah.
That's what they said. That's what they said. So that was a wonderful sort of eye opener and chance encounter for me. And now I'm going to go like 180 degrees with something completely sort of ridiculous, really. But so we were at the Lenox, Massachusetts Art Festival, maybe a month ago. And there were a bunch of wonderful artists. It's a lovely, lovely town filled with galleries. Lovely town, lovely, you know, exhibitors and such. But the thing that I kind of took away the most is I walked by this little stand of this woman and her husband who were bakers from Nantes in France. And they had this tray of pastry and they had this thing I had never seen before. It was this sort of cylindrical souffle-ish looking dessert. And I said, I'm gonna try this, because you know, you think in your middle age, how can it be that I've never encountered this article of food before? And I had this, and it was like the most miraculous little pastry I'd ever had. It's called a cannelle. I think it's Cannelle. It's made from a special mold pan. It's brown and crusty on the outside and custardy on the inside. And I took a bite and I was like, this is like nothing I've ever tasted before. It was like a revelation. And so I bought the pan myself. I'm going to make it myself. But I was just extending that, you know, art can be found anywhere,
Yeah.
right? It can be on campus or it can be on, you know, on a baking sheet. So there you go. That's what I
Okay, great. What about David here? David Jones.
Hi, sure. My name's David. I am a lawyer turned judge. I'm a bankruptcy judge in Manhattan by profession. And that's a very analytical and verbal world. So when I turned 50, I thought, well, I can't be too limited in my modes of existence. So, I mean, I do other things as well. But so I started taking drawing classes, having perceived myself as a person of no artistic talent. And I discovered I'm a person of modest artistic talent, very modest. And then I latched onto Simon's classes somewhere later and have found them great. So I'm a lifelong art appreciator, goer, soaker upper, and I like to maintain balance in my life and see things through different points of view, literally. So that's what's gotten me here, and I've found these classes really great. I've done Simon's classes a number of times. And I'll say for my works, I'm home alone with our psycho border collie who's yippy. But anyway, I love the Rick Barton exhibit that Simon alerted us to. I went to that. I thought it was amazing. He's a totally unknown person or all but unknown person who got collected by.
This is Rick Barton.
Yeah, Rick Barton, the exhibit at the Morgan. And hats off to them for putting this on. His work was quite amazing. And it's just wonderful to be put in touch and exposed to someone, just as someone was saying, that you had no idea existed, at least I did. He was a very troubled kind of, I guess you could say, outsider art person, very, very, very rough upbringing. I think had probably, sounds like he had mental illness issues. He was way before that was widely accepted, but lived in the Bay Area and did these amazing depictions of life in that time, era, and place. And his vision was incredible. There's some very moving things and beautiful. And just his ability to concoct particularly these really long works that Simon was describing was amazing. And you know, trippy perhaps is a word that applies as well. Trippy yet representational and recognizable. And then I guess the other thing I'll tout is a book I read called When We Cease to Understand the World by a Belgian writer called Labaton. That's really interesting.
Say it again.
Yeah, it's the novel. It's called, well, it's a very facty novel. It's called When We Cease to Understand the World, and it's by a writer called Benjamin Labatut. Labatut. He's Belgian, but he's lived he seems to be a global person. He got very fascinated with kind of epistemology, how we know, what's perception. And so he walks you through evolving science and physics and drivers of physics. And he sort of, it's very fact-driven, but he also fictionalizes them and their lives and their inner lives and their thought processes. And it sort of progresses through a series of physics and other scientific discoveries. And you end up with Heisenberg and uncertainty. So it's very, it kind of progresses. I have to figure out how the narrative works, because it really is a spellbinding narrative that ends up with telling us that the march of knowledge and scientific advancement has led us to a point where no one can actually understand anything. And like literally, that's the concept of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that you think you are developing your knowledge, but you come to a point where your knowledge is the knowledge that you can't actually grasp everything, and sort of how you process that. So it's short and really well written and quite an interesting thing. And I can't claim to be too original in touting this, because it was on the Times' 10 best books of the year list for 2021, I think. So I'm not so hot, but it really is great. And I don't know how widely it's getting read. So
This is a book you wrote to me about, right?
I think so. I think I mentioned it. Yeah. It's really great.
I thought
I read it too, yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Did I describe it like you think of it? Maybe.
Carol, he's asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was his description
Yes,
like yours?
yes, absolutely. I thought it was fascinating. I thought very strange mind working through.
He's also a very good storyteller. David
Yes.
recommended it to me, and he weaves, you really find out a lot about these characters and what passions they had.
Absolutely.
David, when you wrote to me about this book, I thought what you were trying to say was that it had something to do with looking at pictures, looking at paintings.
Oh, that was something else, and I can't remember what it was. Wait a minute, I'm going to see if I can figure that out. But that was a different thing, because this is not that.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll email you about whatever I was thinking about.
Okay.
Could
So
you-
let's continue
title
with
of that book again?
Sorry, the book I was talking about is When We Cease to Understand the World.
Oh,
And
okay.
the book, and the writer is a guy, somebody named Labatut, Labatut.
Yeah, okay. And we cease.
Labute. David, Labute.
I think it's Labatut.
TUT. Okay.
Labatut. Yeah. Okay. So, Alan.
Yes, hi. My name is Alan Rose. I'm an architect, and I have a practice in Manhattan with my wife, who's also an architect. I guess it's about 37 years now we've been in practice. I've always drawn, even as a kid, and then when my wife and I started dating, we would go to every Wednesday night. We'd go to Museum of Natural History, and we go in and we'd sketch the animals that are in the dioramas there, and then we'd also go to the Met and actually sketch some of the paintings that are there, do sketches based on the paintings. And then at some point, she mentioned that she knew of this artist who was giving a class at the New School. It happened to be Simon. So I'd say this was probably in, the mid to late 80s, probably 86, 87. I started taking class with Simon and continued pretty much until he stopped giving the class there. And then eventually I also picked up his class that he was giving in his studio. And of course, we would basically mostly figurative drawings, and we used to get homework do still lives. And then I've been away for it for a while. And recently I've always wanted to paint, and I've never really, I don't know whether I thought I could or whatever. And I started at this point with acrylic paint, and I think hopefully we'll graduate to oils at some point. But I'm kind of starting to feel pretty pleased with what what I've turned out. However, it's still kind of learning how to use the media. Because of COVID, it kind of started during COVID. Because of COVID, I mean, I haven't been able to take any classes anywhere, so all of this is kind of self learning. Our practice, we're starting to kind of taper it off, and used to have about between 6 and 10 employees. We're kind of down to 1 now. And I'd like to actually get more into the art as time goes on, and so that's kind of the plan. And as far as trying to think of something I saw recently, well, I saw this movie recently called Woman in Gold. I don't know if anybody's seen that. It's with
Say it again.
Helen Mirren. Woman
Yes,
in
I
Gold.
saw
It's basically, Simon, it's about the painting that Gustav Klimt did of this woman, oh gosh, her name, Adele
I
Bauer.
know what you mean. I know what
Okay,
you mean.
which is now, of course, in the, I guess it's still there at the New Gallery.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was kind of amazing. It was really the story of what happened to this painting during World War II, at the when the Jews were left. This was I guess in Austria, Vienna, and they had to leave everything behind, and the Nazis confiscated this painting, and ultimately it wound up in a museum in Vienna, and they kind of referred to it as their Mona Lisa. The Viennese Mona Lisa. And the story is about how she managed to get the painting back. And she was she was relentless.
That's good, Bill.
Yeah, it was very good.
Thank you. Francis. Yeah, Francis with the blue sweater.
Yeah, I had to unmute. Hello. I have to say, I'm very tired because I'm just back from visiting my daughter in France. So I'm still on French time. And I've seen a lot in the last 2 weeks. I went first to Ireland for an art class of drawing, though it was outdoor and the weather was rather chilly though. So that made it difficult. So some of the time was indoors. I went to the Beatty Museum there, which is a phenomenal collection of books of every sort, kinds that you never knew existed. Beatty was an American who collected and then donated this museum in Dublin. We were just in Dublin. And then I went to, my daughter lives in Le Mans, and so I had a visit with her there. One of the things we went to see was the Apocalypse Tapestry, which is in Angers. There's a chateau there, and this huge, many panel long tapestry is there. That's illustration, what's left of, it was even larger than it is now. It's what's left of it, but it's still immense, and spent a very long time looking at it. It did make me think about how part of many religions is about sadism, the pleasure of some people of depicting what will happen to their enemies when they imagine them going to hell, and all these parts of it that they illustrate. And there's something really horrible about that. Some of the illustrations, we couldn't tell if they were meant to be bad characters or good. Some of the drawings, some of the monsters are kind of cute.
Francis, say something about your own background so people can.
Okay, yes. My background, I actually have a BA in art history and a master's degree in pure mathematics. And I've mostly been teaching mathematics. I just quit my 5-day-a-week job, and I'm going to teach just one class. My friends call it Math Sunday School because it's Sunday mornings for the New York Math Circle. I like doing that, and I think of math and science as very related to the arts, because you have to have something you're trying to do. You have to have questions you're posing that you then want to answer, whether as an artist or as a scientist, a mathematical researcher. There's something you want to research and find out. People don't think of it as a creative subject, but I try to teach it in a way that the children get to be creative in their thinking and realize that there's math always being invented, just as art's always being done.
Let me go on. I want to get everyone in before the time ends. Victoria?
Yeah, hi. So my name is Victoria Brush, and I live in Park Slope. I've lived here for decades. And I'm a relatively recently retired tax professional. Thrilled not to be doing that anymore. It got very anxiety provoking during the pandemic, with all of the problems that the IRS was having. Anyway, so I've just been kind of figuring out what to do now. I've always been interested in art. I've always dabbled a little bit in art, and I'm sort of trying to get back into doing some painting. I went out to Greenwood Cemetery just this past weekend with a friend of mine, and we were just painting outside, and it felt really, really great just to kind of be doing stuff, and it didn't have to be meaningful. And she and I work really, really differently, and so that was nice to see that. But I've also just been going to like tons and tons and tons and tons of exhibits, and been totally thrilled to have a chance to do that, because I felt like in my old life I was always too tired or too busy or too this or too that. And so one of the things that I saw this summer, or this fall, I should say, was the William Klein show. The William Klein retrospective. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a photographer, and it kind of had a personal connection to me, because way back when all the galleries used to be in Soho, before Soho became, you know, marketing and stores and whatnot, Howard Greenberg had a gallery down there, and he had this exhibit of William Klein's photographs, and I just loved his photographs. And I remember there was this one photograph of a person changing the show name on a marquee in Times Square that I loved. And I asked them, you know, I said, I really don't have very much money, but could I pay this off over time? Could I buy it like on a layaway plan? And I guess back in those days, things were a little bit more loosey-goosey than they are now. And not only did they say yes and took like $100 a month from me for, I don't know how long, but they let me actually walk out with the print before it was paid off.
Wow.
So I still have that print, and I was totally thrilled to see it in the exhibit. So that was nice. And then the other thing I did this summer, which was a big adventure is that there's a Joan Mitchell retrospective down at the Baltimore Museum of Art. And so my partner and I got on Amtrak and we went down to Baltimore to spend the day at the Baltimore Museum of Art. And it became quite a thing because we had some Amtrak issues, but we not only saw this wonderful exhibit of Joan Mitchell's works, which are absolutely enormous and overwhelming, and to see them kind of all together in this one place was pretty astonishing. But we also saw at this museum, there was this other artist who I'd never heard of before named Salman Tour. He's American, but he's of Pakistani descent. And he does these figurative paintings from his life, and they're really weird, and I don't know if I really like them. But I was raised in Pakistan in the early part of my childhood, so it was, I sort of felt connected to a lot of the images. And so that was really interesting. And then I, of course, Googled him and realized he's represented by this gallery in New York and da-da-da-da. And, but the third exhibit we saw there was, I forget the collector's name, but this collection of Degas paintings that was really, really wonderful and sweet. It was all of sort of women. It was, you know, it was just paintings of, I think it was Degas. I'm getting confused. It wasn't Degas, it was somebody else. Anyway, it was a wonderful little collection of these portraits of young women. And it was just so wonderful to be down at this museum. The Baltimore Museum, it doesn't have a lot of money. You can tell it's not like the New York museums, and it's kind of not very well kept, and it seems a little sad and deserted, but it has this really wonderful collection. And it also has a fabulous restaurant.
Victoria, let me continue with someone else, okay? This is great, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Lucy, you want to pitch in?
Yeah.
You want to pitch in?
Yeah. I'm a retired, almost retired 84-year-old professional musician. And I am a cellist. And I also play the viola da gamba, and a great amount of time in my career was spent as an early music musician. However, I never stopped playing the cello because there's too much repertoire that I love. And as far as this was all in New York, but at a certain point, my husband and my son and I moved to the Berkshires. We live in southwestern Berkshires. It's about a half hour from Lenox, since the earlier person discussed Lenox. And we love being up here in the country, and we go down to New York often. My husband works at the Metropolitan Opera, so he goes down like he's going down tonight. And so we are down there quite a lot. And I have loved looking at art for a long time. It's just, for me, it's trying to figure out how a work is created and marveling at the ideas that people come up with and put on a flat surface. Well, if they're sculptors, that's another thing. But I mean, it's really quite amazing. Somebody can put something really miraculous on a flat surface. And trying to figure out how they do that in the way of colors, making shadows and light, and making different colors. And I can really stand by a piece a long time and try to figure it out. I mean, plus the fact it's usually a wonderful picture, you know, in one way or another. And you learn a lot about history and seeing paintings, because they tell you, it's sort of like my profession, early music. I learn about history because you learn about how instruments came about, how they were made. Art is about documentation, if you want to put it that way. And it's such an interesting way to document things musically and as a painting or as a drawing. I mean, of course, in literature, you have something similar, but it's different in something so abstract as music and art. So there you got it.
Thank you. Thank you. Dean.
Yeah, hi. I'm, as Simon said, I live in St. Paul. I started with piano lessons at age 6. So I kind of became a classical piano kid. And I always loved to sketch in school. So I was always trying to figure out how to draw faces. I still love to sketch live, like during concerts, you know, having people sitting still whenever jazz concerts. I love to sketch the scene. I was able to go to Tanglewood as a high school student to the Tanglewood music program. At that time, I played the cello and piano. That's where I met Simona there. She was one of the fellow students. And then I met Simon through Simona and saw his postcard. And that's kind of my connection there with following Simon's career through the years. At Tanglewood, I got tendonitis really bad. So I was kind of knocked out of music for about 10 years from actually performing. But I got a minor in music and society and did some fine arts and studied architecture. Got a master's in architecture from the U of M. And one of my focuses was always the connection between composing of music and the composing of architecture. And my thesis was a meandering study of, you know, any connection that I can find between music and architecture. And part of my process, I took about 3 years to finally finish my project, but I designed a chair, kind of following the idea of how did the violin evolve? You know, there's so many permutations of the violin. It could be a box. How did it get that classical shape? So it's kind of interesting to study over time how the forces kind of solidified it to the shape that it kind of stays in now. And so I kind of used those ideas to design the shape of this cellist, ergonomic, you know, cellist chair. It's a wooden chair that I worked on. So just to try to get something that would fit in with the look of the instrument and fit the body. So
is it comfortable?
I had a lot of musicians in the area try it. The pinnacle was that I had Yo-Yo Ma try it out when he came to the orchestra hall in Minneapolis. And he said, keep pushing it. You know, he had a friend that designed a metal chair like it. He thought it was pretty comfortable. So people say it's comfortable. It's just a matter of getting it produced and, you know, pushing it.
Let's just continue to next one.
Yeah.
Saul.
Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Saul Mackin, and I live in Brooklyn. All right. You could call it Park Slope, Windsor Paris. My background, first I'll say that I worked in a insurance office, so there was no art involved in my career. But once I retired, there were things I wanted to do that I hadn't had a chance to. I always loved music and film, and so I started to take courses at the New School in both subjects for several years. I wanted to do something outside of being sort of passive and being in class. I wanted to be active, proactive. I wanted to teach. I wanted to present myself before people. So what happened is that I wound up in this, what would I say, a continuing education department in Brooklyn College. It's called Brooklyn Lifelong Learning. I'm there for 10 years, and I taught film. When they say taught, I would introduce the film, we'd see a full-length film, and then we would have a discussion after that. The last couple of years, because of COVID, I've gone into the subject of, well, a couple of things, but right now it's art history. All right, my wife is an artist, and I always was. I think another woman said here was like amazed, transfixed as to what goes through an artist's mind, what, you know, as far as also what they create. So I've been also getting classes in art history, learning along the way, using YouTube videos, again, discussion afterwards, and, you know, realizing that a lot of people out there really are interested in subject matter. I get a good attendance. I'm also involved in another venue in Manhattan, another continuation department called Quest. All right, there you do a full presentation. So I've been there several years. I've done presentations, different aspects of film, jazz, even did a couple on art. I think it was Matisse and Paul Klee were the two I'd done. All right, so I've done presentations there, like I said. As far as you know, what's really you know, done something for me, if you want to call it done, is I was at a New York Historical Society, and they had this artist. His name is Winold Rice. All right, and he just blew me away. I mean, he did a lot of artists of Black people. He did metal sculptures. The two particular ones that I enjoyed in his exhibit were portraits of Langston Hughes and, well, let me just go with that because there are a lot of good paintings there. The other thing I want to mention that really hit me too is I have a large record collection. And when I say record, I mean long playing records. I got rid of all my CDs. So I'm always on the lookout for something, a new jazz record, right? And so I'm always looking online, and I go on Amazon, check things out there. So I love music from back in the 50s, especially like Bill Evans, Jerry Mulligan, that type. So this new album came out, Jerry Mulligan and a trio of music back in the 50s, and it was released. It's a special label, I guess, and was released in England. So obviously, it was something I'd never heard before, and it's beautiful. It's if you know Jerry Mulligan at all, it's quite something. Him playing with this trio, and a lot of the music that he always did was his own composition. So if you want to look at it, you know, if there's an opportunity like the opportunity to be in this class, I want to go for it. I want to take advantage of that opportunity. I look at it as like you have your life, and there's a wheel there, and there's a center, and I want to add spokes, different spokes to that wheel. So first it was you know, film and music, and now it's art. You know, it's something that, you know, let's say, look, your time is limited, right? And you don't want to pass anything by, you know, and regret it. And I just want, if there's something out there like this class, you know, I just go for it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen. I live in Hoboken, New Jersey. And so cross a couple rivers from some of you. I started my teaching career. I'm a teacher. I started my teaching career in Park Slope at 321, teaching with Renee. So That was quite a while ago, 20, I don't know how many years ago. And we were both teaching first grade at the same time. And I was a novice and she was an expert. And I learned a lot from Renee in those days. And then stayed there till I had my daughter and took some time off from teaching, and then found a school here in Hoboken that's around the corner. And I now teach preschool. And art is a huge part of what I teach. So it's a big part of my teaching life. It is not at all producing art is not at all a part of my personal life. And in fact, like I've learned to draw by teaching children how to draw in some ways. That's been
How do you use art in your teaching? You said it's a big part.
It is for preschoolers, they're not reading and writing, and even articulating things sometimes is challenging, and the way that they express their ideas or react to things is through art. If we're learning about something, they do observational drawings of it, or they might do an imaginary drawing of it, or they might tell a story through pictures and art. And we use all kinds of mediums, clay, sculpture, paint, a lot of different tools for drawing, collage. I'm doing a lot of collage right now with them. So it really is a huge part of my teaching life, because that is how they express what they're learning in the best way, I think. And my school is a real arts focused school, which, I know Renee has experience with the Reggio Emilio School in Italy, and that has really influenced a lot of what we do at my school too. And, art and nature and children expressing their ideas and experiencing the world through the spaces that they're in and the world around them, and how can they recreate that or create through art. So
is there one work of art that you've seen recently that got to you?
So great question. Not a single work of art. I was trying to think about my art viewing life is limited because my teaching life is so busy. I think Victoria said that their work life limited her for a while. But in the spring, I was at the University of Michigan and went to the Museum of Art there. And there was a Romare Bearden exhibit. And I knew very little about him, but I went back twice because it was so beautiful. And it sort of was it tracked his path as some of his development, some of his watercolors, and then being influenced by Chinese wash and how he started using oil paints. And I have always loved collage as a medium and viewing art, and his collages, not they're very abstract, the ones that I wound up just being wowed by. They were stunning, and the exhibit was amazing to get to know him as an artist a bit better.
Let's go on to, I think the last one is Kathy.
It's me.
Yes.
Okay, I'll go fast. This is my third or fourth round with Simon, who I was recommended you by my lovely friend upstairs, Mickey Swee, who has studied with Simon. She's an artist too. I came out of theater. I was into theater for 15 years, and I started out as a dancer, and I moved into acting and producing, and then after the theater and film and television, a lot of commercials and things like that. So that was a big part of my life. And I got into this class because I was discussing art with my friend, and I was discussing Picasso with her and what I don't understand about him. And she said, why don't you take a class? So that's how I got started here. And I just love Simon's class. It's opened up so many doors for me that I just adore it. And unfortunately, this year I got myself involved in a photography class. So I'm taking photography and this class and 2 creative writing classes. So I know I'm crazy. I'm absolutely crazy to do all this, but I'm getting so much out of it. Growing so much and seeing things about myself I really didn't realize I had the ability to do. I'm not a fiction person. I don't read a lot of fiction, but I'm in this fiction class. It turns out that I can even write it. So that was a miracle to me to find out that I could do that. And of course, the photography class is all digital, and that's a real challenge. You know, all the it's hard. I mean, I'd like to take pictures, but all the technical stuff that you have to learn is not easy. So I haven't really gone anywhere. I'm so busy working that I don't have a chance to go to anything. This Friday, I'm starting my ballet season. So I subscribe to the New York City Ballet. And so Friday night is the first thing I'll be going to the theater for in ages. So I'm thrilled about that. And there are some plays, there's something called Becky Nurse at Salem at Lincoln Center that we're going to see, and another Audra McDonald on Broadway, a play with her. So I'm a theater person, a dance person, but art has become very important to me, and photography is really my love. So it all comes together, and meeting you all and hearing your stories is so exciting. I mean, Pakistan, you were born in Pakistan. It's just so fun, to find out these incredible backgrounds that people had. You just look at each other and go, well, that's really unusual. And so thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed everybody's story.
So just want to reiterate, I'm going to send you some information about the next 3 classes.
Right.
The next class, I will present all those different artists. And I'm going to send you a link so you can see what I'll be talking about. And that link will be what you will select for the next class. I'll spell it all out in an email tomorrow or Friday. I can't help but wanting to ask you, why did you grow up in Pakistan?
Asking.
Yes, yeah.
Well, my parents worked for the Methodist Board of Missions. My dad was a college teacher and my mother was a nurse, and they worked out there. They're both missionary kids, so it was sort of in the family.
And so how long did you live there?
From about 6 months to 12.
Wow, wow, wow. I have enjoyed meeting all of you. I didn't figure the time exactly right. So some of you maybe wanted to speak more, and some of you spoke a little more than you should, but it's all evened out, and it's a very interesting first class. And I think what's nice here is that you get a sense of who the other people are, where they come from, and their involvement. So you'll get an email from me. Please write back and say, I got this email. I'm on the same page. Enjoy your week. Look for my email. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, everybody. Bravo.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Nice seeing you, Lucy.
Yeah,
Really nice seeing you. Very nice seeing you.